A crisis situation is triggered either by a natural disaster or a violent conflict. 40% of post-conflict countries slide back into violent conflict within just 10 years. Threats such as the proliferation of small arms, political violence, citizens' distrust in the democratic institutions fuel insecurity and criminality.
First of all, let me say that conflict itself is not a bad thing. Because whatever we do in life, we are always dealing with conflict. Conflict as to what to do, not what not to do. But what is bad about conflict when it becomes violent, it becomes negative and destructive.
Democratic governance is essential for conflict management. Strong, legitimate, and effective political institutions, including parliaments, are the most effective means for societies to prevent, manage, and recover from crisis.
If parliaments function effectively and efficiently, you do not allow a situation in which a country can descend into unmanageable levels of violent conflicts. I say this because parliaments more and more must be very good at creating the framework for the building of national capacities to respond to conflicts.
Mais si vous regardez même les conflits armés au nord du Niger, au nord du Mali, au Tchad, ça met en prise le gouvernement et des hommes qui sont rebellés. Donc, le gouvernement est presque disqualifié les premiers jours pour parler ou pour intervenir. Mais le Parlement, lorsqu'il est crédible et responsable, il peut agir.
Members of Parliament become important because by working directly with the Upper East Caucus of the Members of Parliament, we were able to minimize the political component of the conflict by having the Members of Parliament from the two main parties in Ghana to be in the room and to be part of the process of dialogue, whether outside the room in which we were sitting and talking or on the field where we were meeting the different community leaders. The Members of Parliament could directly respond to the concerns and the anxieties and the frustrations of the communities. And whilst they did that, we were able to gradually get a sense of synergy that started to emerge, in which the ownership of the problem went back to the community. Then they started to agree on the principles of engagement, healing, reconciliation, how to rebuild community.
We contribute to national development by the laws we pass, by the things that we do or we should not do as parliamentarians. Therefore, in our work, at the end of the day, directly, it has to do with peace building. Everything we do has to be very sensitive to peace and to potential conflict.
Le rôle déterminant des parlementaires a été de mettre les bases, disons, constitutionnelles, qui a été d'abord l'élaboration des textes de loi, parce qu'on ne peut parler d'élection sans un support juridique, et le CNT s'est attelé comme première mission à l'élaboration d'une nouvelle constitution et du code électoral, sans oublier également l'ensemble des lois organiques qui vont régir dorénavant les institutions de la République et la République de Guinée.
When you go back to the constitutions of some West African states, the laws of the parliaments, and maybe in some instances the procedural rules of these parliaments, their standing orders, they are called in some instances, you realize that in most cases there is provision, enough authority is given to parliament and the parliamentarians to oversee the executive and security actors.
On the basis of the UNDP guidelines for the international community on parliaments, crisis prevention and recovery, the United Nations Development Programme has launched a new dedicated initiative towards empowering parliaments as actors in conflict prevention and post-conflict reconstruction.
There is no question in peace-building practice that we must constantly integrate state building with peace building.
UNDP's strategy seeks to inform the role that parliaments can play in supporting crisis prevention and recovery through knowledge building and sharing, trainings, South-South solutions, recommendations, sharing of lessons learned, and best practices.
Et il faut aussi peut-être faire des échanges d'expériences. C'est pas mauvais que le parlementaire assiste à ce qui se fait dans certains pays où la démocratie est plus consolidée, pour qu'il voit que le parlementaire a une grande capacité, une grande responsabilité pour gérer les conflits.
The regional seminar organized by UNDP in Accra on the 28th and 29th of June 2010, for instance, was a great opportunity for parliamentarians from West African states to share success stories on parliamentary performance in crisis prevention and recovery. A member of parliament from the Republic of Congo, for example, explained the role played by the Congolese parliament in the peace and reconciliation process.
Nous avons eu une rébellion dans une région, dans un département, celui du Poul. Et les parlementaires ont beaucoup œuvré. Les parlementaires ont beaucoup œuvré, ils ont mis en place une commission ad hoc qui a beaucoup travaillé avec les politiques, avec les partis politiques, avec le gouvernement, la société civile, avec la partie de la rébellion. Ils ont essayé de coopérer avec cette rébellion. Ils ont en même temps travaillé de commun accord avec la société civile. Et aujourd'hui, ça aboutit à la résolution finale de cette rébellion.
But in terms of focusing parliaments and parliamentarians on what their role in oversight of the security sector is, in terms of engaging the ECOWAS parliament and the national parliaments and forging a kind of partnership with them and encouraging them to engage the executive arm and security actors, I think we can say that we have made quite some success in that area.
When looking at the challenges parliaments face when dealing with, for example, security sector oversight,
one that comes to mind immediately will be the rapid turnover of parliamentarians after each election in every member state. To parliament, you have to start the process over again with new members elected into parliament who might not be experienced in peace and security issues and are working in security and defense committees. So we start the whole process of capacity building all over again. The perception that peace and security issues over the years, long years of military rule, has created a kind of overwhelming perception that peace and security issues is primarily the concern of the executive branch exclusively, and the legislature does not have the mandate to question whatever the executive does. Gender and minority rights, not paying enough attention or not giving enough priority to the gender perspective of security. This has caused a lot of imbalance in the way the security issues are debated or engaged with in West Africa.
Il y a une sorte de détachement, une sorte de rupture du contrat entre l'électeur et le parlementaire. Il ne se voit qu'à l'occasion des élections ou des meetings des partis. Mais de la résolution des problèmes quotidiens, souvent, ils ne s'impliquent pas beaucoup. Alors qu'ils ont vraiment une légitimité qui aurait pu leur permettre d'apporter une contribution à la résolution de ces questions.
Pour ce qui concerne le sujet qui nous intéresse aujourd'hui, à savoir les différentes violences qui sont faites des violences basées sur le genre, les violences autour des élections, quels sont les mécanismes qui existent pour faire. Et certes, le cadre législatif, mais ce cadre législatif pour pouvoir vulgariser les mesures législatives qui sont prises auprès des populations afin qu'elles sachent qu'il y a des dispositions qui existent.
Et les représentants du Parlement de la plupart des pays africains n'arrivent pas à se détacher de leur parti et ensuite des gouvernements qu'ils soutiennent. Lorsqu'ils soutiennent un gouvernement, eh bien c'est à tous les coups et c'est dans toutes les questions. Et ça, c'est une grosse faiblesse de nos parlementaires. Même si la question de la famine, je vous ai dit que parce que le gouvernement a refusé qu'on dise que c'était une famine, l'Assemblée a dû modifier son discours. Donc vraiment, dans le cadre du fonctionnement des institutions au Niger, le fait que les majorités au Parlement soutiennent mécaniquement leur gouvernement a fait qu'il y a eu très peu d'initiatives qui ont réussi dans le cadre de la gestion du conflit.
The positive role played by ECOWAS during the constitutional crisis in Niger in 2009, when the president attempted to revise the constitution to extend his mandate, demonstrates the relevance and complementarity of UNDP's regional and national approach, which aims at building the capacity of regional organizations in addition to strengthening national parliaments.
But then at the level of the region, I think that the transformation of the ECOWAS Secretariat to a commission should gradually increase the leverage of allowing the members of the ECOWAS Parliament to be more assertive. And if you ask me of one concrete example, I will say that the members of the ECOWAS Parliament took the front line in disagreeing with the processes in Niger when Parliament as an institution became a subject of ridicule by the former president, Mahmoud Tanja. And in West Africa, we have done more work at the regional level than we have seen at national levels. And I think the two are equally important. You cannot contain a social crisis in one country within the borders of that country alone. In one way or the other, the potential for a spillover across the border is always there. And that is why we must have a regional approach as the best approach. But the regional approach is better informed when there are national capacities, because the regional approach then can depend on those national capacities to be able to respond efficiently.
UNDP recognizes the benefits of creating peace platforms and advocates a multi-stakeholder approach and partnerships which engage parliamentarians, government representatives, civil society, and regional and international organizations.
In Ghana, there has been a very interesting collaboration between government, civil society, UNDP, in trying to develop what we call an architecture for peace.
Are willing to partner, and I think the partnership between civil society, governments, and parliaments in West Africa has proven effective in the ECOWAS community, and other regions I'm sure can learn from this model of cooperation and collaboration.